All right. So, I'm sorry, your name again?
Ashley.
Ashley, okay. Sorry, I've been back to back all day, so.
That's okay, no problem.
But I saw her form, still a puppy, right?
Yes.
Was it 8 months?
She's 8 months.
Yeah, okay. And general obedience, and that's all about the broken femur. Okay, so you said general obedience and then like building her confidence and stuff.
Yeah, oh, another note, so another reason why I'm actually interested in doing the private lessons, because she recently tested positive for heartworm.
Okay.
So she's on the doxycycline, the antibiotic right now.
Uh-huh.
So my vet did not advise that we should do any like boot camps or rigorous training programs with other dogs.
Yeah. So she's currently under treatment now.
Yeah, but she hasn't, the injections start end of June. She's
Okay.
on the doxy, which is not as, it's not as a precarious of time. Her case is very minor too, and she's young, so my vet said that the exercise restriction wouldn't be as extreme
Gotcha.
as it would be in an older.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because I had another client, her dog had tested positive for heartworm, and she only did 1 lesson, because she wanted just enough to like control the dog in the meantime until the dog was clear to do any real activity. So, but she's good.
Yeah, I mean, we have until, once she starts the injections at the end of June,
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, depending on what we're doing, she may or may not be able to do any lessons. I mean, she can't be running, like, you know, vigorously up and down places, but like, she's young, that's how my vet explained it to me. She's a puppy, and there's only so much I can do.
Okay. So, and then before reaching out, I'm assuming you did research on us and our training methods and everything?
So I was referred to you by Carmel.
Yeah, with Jane.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she recommended you. She knew I was adopting Penny, and I had kind of reached out to her.
Mm-hmm.
She adopted Jane at a similar age,
Mm-hmm.
and so she told me about you, so I wanted to come and meet you.
Okay. So we use remote collar and prong for training,
Yes.
which Jane is for training on the remote collar. And the reason why I use that tool is just because right off the bat it gives us off-leash control. So if she's going to be going to dog parks, or she's going to be off-leash at any kind of unenclosed area, remote collar, in my opinion, is the best tool, because it's the only tool that guarantees, or not guarantees, but gets you as close to 100% of a guarantee in terms of control, no matter the environment or the context, including like an emergency situation. So like fireworks and dogs running away from fireworks is typically a very common situation, that even with remote collar, you have a much, much higher chance of getting your dog to return than you would if you did positive only or like prong collar type training, because once you take the leash off, you have no means of really reinforcing the command.
Oh yeah, and she doesn't listen to me at all right now.
Okay. And how long have you had her for?
She came to me in February,
Okay.
and she was on crate rest for like 6 to 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So under those conditions, I was pretty much carrying her around.
Mm-hmm.
And the last couple weeks, or I guess more than a couple weeks, so she's
Been
gotten
doing more activity.
yes, more active, and she's starting to get really comfortable, so she's been pushing her boundaries with me. I have a cat who's very tolerant of dogs.
Okay.
However, she recently has started to chase him, which I don't
Oh,
like.
I saw that. Yeah.
She was not doing that, earlier
Mhm.
on in her time with me. But that's definitely a behavior that I want addressed.
Are they playing, or is it like a predatory chase?
I don't think that it doesn't seem aggressive to me. It seems like she's trying to play.
Okay. But you're trying to curb it, one, because is the cat like not a fan of it, or?
Yeah, no, I don't want him to be in any type of distress. I mean, he's very tolerant of dogs, so long as they're not chasing him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then coming soon, she's not gonna be able to get anyways because of the
Right.
treatment.
Right.
Okay.
And she'll like start playing, and she'll pin him down, and I don't like that either.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, so that you can correct that. In terms of control with Penny here, how much control are you looking to achieve with her? Like, what is it, if you could have the life with Penny you wanted, what does that look like?
Well, I would want her to be very social, not sensitive to noise, be able to learn how to self-soothe. I have a younger brother with Down syndrome, and I have little nieces and nephews, so it's very important to me that she's not super hyper around them, because that's upsetting to my brother mostly. He loves dogs, but he's used to more like therapy dogs and stuff like that. And he loves Penny, but when she starts jumping on him, then he gets upset.
Sure.
So, yeah, I want her to, be relaxed, and for her to just kind of be my companion and go anywhere with me where she's going to listen.
Okay. So, there's walking on a leash, I'm assuming, recall, which is come and call.
Yes.
Will she go to restaurants with you or anything like that?
I would like for her to. She has not yet.
Okay.
And she won't until after
Her
treatments. Yeah, because she might get too excited.
Okay. So, because what dictates like length of time and cost and everything is simply how much control do you want. Some people just say, I walk my dog and I go to the dog park. That's all it's going to be. I go, okay, this is what we're going to teach. You have other clients who, so I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. Think of it as 3-week program is I just want to walk my dog. Okay. 6-week program, I want to walk my dog and go to the park. 9-week program, walk my dog, go to the park, go to restaurants. 12-week program, I do all that, plus I go hiking, go to the dog beach. She's going to come with me everywhere. I need full control of this dog. Okay.
I would be more interested in like a 9 to 12.
9 to 12.
I mean, she's young. I really see this as like my investment in her.
Sure.
And yeah, and so I would like to start that process. No, she's still a
Yeah. So the training that we do is lifelong. It's not like you're doing training and you come back for more training. Like, we teach everything, and as long as you're using it, it's meant to be functional. So there's 6 standard obedience commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. Those 6 commands are meant to be functional. They're meant to allow you to do things with your dog. But I think now people view these things as like tricks that their dog does, or things that their dog can only do within the confines.
Yeah, no, I don't care about tricks. I want her to
Yeah.
be a good dog.
So these are meant, they're meant to be like, I say this, you do this, right? So that you can do more things with her. So when it comes to the training and everything, with e-collar, are you familiar with the technology and how it works?
Carly has described it for me and basically said it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of like pressure, like it would be for like like a massager, kind of.
Okay.
That type of stimulation is not something that like harms them. And that is the trigger for, the basis of whatever task we're working on.
Okay.
The mechanics of it and the psychology of it, I don't know for certain, so.
Okay, so I'll explain all that.
Explain that to me.
So have you ever been to a physical therapist or a chiropractor?
Yes.
Have you ever had STEM?
Have what?
STEM? It's the circles or whatever with the wires that move the muscles.
No, but I know what they are.
Okay, that's an e-collar.
Oh, okay.
So it's a miniaturized TENS unit. They use the technology on humans. So they use a lot for like breaking up scar tissue off on your muscles. They use it in sports rehabilitation therapy, physical therapy. If you like broke your arm or something and you couldn't use it for a long time and you need to rebuild strength, they use it to get the muscles used to working again. So it's not electricity, it's electric, not electricity is how I describe it. Because people usually think, oh, like you're shocking or electrocuting the dog. And I go, well, that's not it at all. So it's a miniaturized TENS unit. It's just a muscle contraction, okay? So there's 2 probes in the collar that will be making contact with the neck. Where those 2 probes are making contact is where you would see the stim working, okay? So if you were to put it on your hand here, you might see your thumb move. If you were to put it on your bicep, you might see your arm move.
Gotcha.
Put it on your thigh, you'd see your thigh move, but you wouldn't feel anything anywhere else, okay? So there's no electric current that runs through your body, okay? So when it comes to the remote collar, the reason why it's the most effective, in my opinion, is like I said right off the bat, you get off-leash control. On or off-leash, doesn't matter. Dogs are more in tune to the collar because we can talk to them using their language. So dogs are physical animals. They bite each other. So if like Penny here were to get out of line with another dog, they would nip and or bite her. that does not make that dog aggressive.
Right.
That dog is just communicating to Penny, hey, I don't like I don't like you mounting me, or I don't like you jumping up. Like right now when she was whining and jumping for attention, and you saw me keep pushing her off, and then eventually I was using pressure to sit her down, and now she's just relaxed.
Yeah.
Is because I was talking her language and telling her I disagree with what you're doing, just relax, okay? So it's kind of the same concept, but with at the press of a button. So I like to call it a bite on the button. The e-collar has 127 different levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127. Old school e-collars used to have 5 levels or 3 levels, okay? So think of 5 and 127 is the same, but we have 122 more divisions, okay? So before with the old school collars, 2, your dog was ignoring it, 3, your dog was yelping, okay? So there was no like in between. Here, 40, 50, 44, 46, 45, we can really fine tune it to the dog and the situation. So it's just a muscle contraction. So because it's physical, it's something that the dog can learn to recognize as like a communicator. But then also, it allows us to make things important without having to be harsh or overly physical or yell at the dog.
Right.
It's all done through the pressure.
And
Okay.
that was my question for, for Carla. I said, well, does it create like a negative association? Because like for, her and my cat, I don't want her to have like a negative association with him. But she basically said, no, like triggers just kind of like communication and for you to be able.
So in order to make something, how do you say? So let's say the kennel. We can use the e-collar to correct barking in the kennel, okay? People think usually, but want to make the kennel a negative. And well, no, because it's how it's applied. If the dog is barking in the kennel and I correct him with the e-collar is only happening when the dog is barking in the kennel, okay? If I want to make the kennel a negative, I would have to remote the dog continuously until the dog escapes the kennel. And when they escape the kennel, then everything will turn off.
Okay.
Okay, so you're making the entire time that dog is in the kennel unpleasant until the dog figures out, I gotta get out of here. And then they go, and then it turns off, and the dog goes, in order to avoid that, I'm not gonna go in that kennel.
Gotcha, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's the same thing with the cat. If she would trigger and start to chase the cat and you just corrected her, you're essentially biting her and saying, you can't chase the cat.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it does not make her not like the cat. It might make her a little wary of the cat in the beginning until she realizes it's not the cat, it's how she treats the cat.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's super common in the beginning, nothing up to norm, but it doesn't make dogs not like things. Okay, so that's why we also repeat things.
Right.
So like if every time she saw the cat something negative happened, that would create her an association like cat is negative. But if her being with the cat is only negative when she tries to chase the cat, she thinks as long as I don't chase the cat, I don't have a problem.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I've never yelled at her when she's tried to chase him. I've just kind of taken her and, moved her away. And then, when they are around each other and she's just kind of chilled out like this, I mean, they're totally fine. And he, like I said, he's super tolerant of dogs. So it's just, she's so interested in him. She's like this little floofy thing that's like running around.
What kind of hat cat do you have?
He was a stray, an alley cat. He's beautiful. He's like white and fluffy. He has a blue eye and a green eye. He's very like majestic looking. He's a big cat too. He's like 14 pounds.
Okay.
So I think she thinks he might be like another dog or something, but I know that I'm sure with her scent she can tell it. So.
Yeah, so dogs don't, I shouldn't say they don't see species because they can obviously differentiate between prey and non-prey animals kind of.
Right.
But dogs typically go by energy, is what they see. Energy or sex, male, female type of thing. So here, with the cat, when you're correcting, because like right now you said like you remove her or whatever, right?
Yeah. Is
that there's no real clear aversive to deter the behavior, which is why she would continue to chase the cat when she's prompted to.
Right.
Because dogs don't do timeout,
Right.
They don't reflect, and she doesn't think like, oh man, mom pulled me away from the cat because I was doing a bad thing, right? Dogs are all within the moment. So like let's say your cat decided like, you know what, I'm not gonna let Penny harass me anymore. And Penny tried to chase the cat was and just like swipe at Penny, right?
Mhm.
And then it comes down, then, so the cat corrects Penny. Penny now has a decision to make. Do I respect that correction, or do I keep trying to harass the cat, right? Depending on what she does, if she goes in again, another swipe of the paw, Penny goes, you know what, you don't like me, and that's okay, I'm gonna just go over here and chill. Right, so then they've now established a relationship where the cat goes, you can try to harass me, but I'm just gonna correct you. Then she has a chance to either respond or ignore, okay?
Right.
So here, you'd essentially, if your cat is very tolerant and you're not wanting Penny to put the cat under distress, you would have to step in for the cat, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because, cats are physical animals too.
Yeah.
They
Well,
bite,
and
scratch.
he's tried to like paw at her.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't taken it, he's so gentle with her. He's
Sure.
just kind of like
He's not serious.
whacking at her.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll still, he has a lot of high places that he could perch.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll try to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And, he'll try to bat her away, but he doesn't like, I've seen him before. There was a puppy, got in his face, he smacked that dog.
Mm-hmm.
He had his claws out, he was very young at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that dog like ran behind the couch
Mm-hmm.
and stayed away from him.
Yep.
She's absolutely not that way with Penny. She just is like very gentle with her actually.
Yeah,
So,
sounds like.
so there's no like reward or communication that what she's doing is improper.
Correct. It sounds like the cat's kind of even engaging a bit there. I have to see it, but if the cat's just like, you know what I mean? Because I've had cats before. I've not had one in many years, but what I'm picturing in my head, it kind of sounds like there's like a little bit of a game there. Or is that not how you feel?
No, I think that they could be playing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you disagree with it, you can absolutely correct it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, I haven't because I'm like, I don't want to create or start doing this like in an improper way. So I'm like, I want to wait until I have like instruction by whoever I'm training with to
Sure.
kind of address the situation.
Sure. So the way the program works is the first thing we always teach is heel, which is leash walking. For a number of reasons. One of them is, one of the most common things people want to fix is leash pulling. Two, I deal with a lot of aggression and reactivity cases, and the heel is the kind of reference point and or foundation for addressing reactivity. Three, when you put a remote collar on a dog, if you press the button and you've given no direction, the dog tends to want to move and then want to move away.
Sure.
Okay, so we use heel, which is a moving behavior, to teach the dog how it turns on, how it turns off.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only does it teach how it turns on and how it turns off, but it gives Penny the ability to move in response to the collar. So she's still able to kind of express that need to move, but we're teaching her, hey, this doesn't mean to move away from me, this actually means to move to me. More specifically, move a man outside.
Yeah.
Okay? So, first two classes are typically heel. It's a 2-class exercise. By the third class, we're jumping into recall. Okay, so this is a pretty standard case, obedience, super minor behavior stuff. 2 classes on heel, and then by the third class, we'll be jumping into recall when it comes to the behavior stuff within the home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a couple things could happen. One, she could start to settle more, where she doesn't want to engage with the cat as much, just through discipline of heel. Okay, that's a possibility. I'm leaning more towards no, but it can happen. Not because what happens is once the dog gets disciplined, they think differently. Okay, so I was raised old school, I was spanked. And if my mom said don't do that, it was only don't do that until the first time I got spanked. Once I got spanked, it was like, oh, so that's a thing.
Right.
Okay? So for dogs, it's similar.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, that example of the cat where she has swatted at the other dog, right? And you said it was a full-on swat.
Yeah, I know he had his nails out.
Yeah, so that dog and or puppy was like, oh, that this is a thing, right? And there was made a decision based off of that. So it's similar here. So once they get corrected and they feel disciplined, it can change things, okay? Where she goes, you know what, like, where you see her be more passive, she won't be so much like excited all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it
She's
helps.
excited all the time. And I can't get anything done
Mm-hmm.
when I'm working unless she's like in her crate, because she's just always getting into
Doing stuff, yeah. So that's what we would call overstimulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's the brain's inability to settle.
Yeah,
that it needs something to do. Yep.
Mhm.
So the heel could potentially fix that stuff. Okay. If not, don't worry. There's an answer. So if by class 3 you're like, you know what, Jesse, she's calmed down a bit, but she still really wants to like play with the cat, then I would show you how to, or I'd explain to you how to correct her with the cat. It's really straightforward. Obedience and behavior are done differently. Think of obedience as I do this, and think of behavior as don't do this. Okay?
Yes.
Heel, sit, stay, down, come in place, right?
Mhm.
Walk at my side. Come to me. Put your butt down. That's all. Do that type of stuff.
Mhm.
Behavior is don't jump, don't bark, don't chase the cat, right?
Right.
So telling her to sit in response to chasing the cat has nothing to do with chasing the cat.
Right.
Right? So even if it stops her and she sits, once you let her go, she'll go right back to chasing the cat
Oh, yeah.
again. So that's where don't do that comes into play. Okay? So e-collar can do both do that and don't do that. Okay? So we would simply apply a consequence to the behavior we don't want. So if I was chasing the cat as a kid and my mom was like, hey, don't chase the cat, spank.
Right.
Right? And I go, oh, okay, well, if I chase the cat, I'm going to get spanked, so I guess I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
Same kind of concept here.
Right.
Okay. So once I explain that to you, it's really straightforward because again, behavior is just simply applying aversive for something you don't want. So then 2 classes on heel, we jump into recall by class 3. So heel is the fastest thing that we tend to teach because most people walk their dog multiple times a day, at least 3 times.
Yeah.
So you practice 3 times a day, 7 days a week. So that tends to go really fast. Recall requires you to go somewhere. You gotta go to the park, let her be out on the long leash, let her be distracted, let her be Penny, let her chase a squirrel, Penny come, right? And then you go home. So it requires you to go somewhere, which tends to take longer.
Mhm.
So that could be a couple of months if you're going every day, or it can be 4 to 6 months if you're going every other day. It all depends on the dog and the owner. So once we cover the recall, that's typically the other 2 classes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Class 5 could be something like go to your bed and don't move. Which is meant for stationary control, which is the command that will, like if you go to a restaurant, you want to bring Penny, go here, don't move all. We have brunch or lunch or dinner. Okay.
Mhm.
Place can also come in handy when she starts to go under treatment because it's like we got to keep her activity low. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the difference between place and crating a dog is when you crate Penny, she has no choice but to be in the crate.
Right.
There is no mental exercise there.
Right.
With place, it's go here, don't move. There is no boundary, there is no cage. So she can technically get up and break the position.
Right.
But she has to control her impulse not to and maintain the position. So one of the things that we do here at my facility is place command. And the dogs will do like 1 to 2 hours of it. And there's dogs walking by, there's people coming in to train their dogs, there's puppies playing. So all this stuff is going on. And the dog and her puppy is just sitting there. And they're going, okay, just because this is going on doesn't mean I have to partake in it.
Right.
So it teaches impulse control.
Mhm.
It's also mental exercise.
Yeah.
So if we can't physically exercise a dog, we can mentally exercise them, okay? So like here, a puppy like her, you saw earlier, just wanted to move.
Mhm.
And I just did a few things to help her settle. And I was essentially telling her, like, you can't do these things. So then she decides, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, okay?
Yeah.
Place command is very much similar, okay? Except this here isn't obedience. What I did was behavior. I was disagreeing with her jumping on me. I was disagreeing with her anxiety because she was a little anxious and whiny.
Mhm.
I was also disagreeing with her standing up, and you saw me kept kind
Yes.
of touching her, right? That created this. Place is more so go here and don't move.
Mhm.
Okay? This is I don't care what you do, just relax.
Right.
Okay? So 5th class could be place command, and then that would leave stay down and sit, right? And that's just whether or not if you want, right? So if you're doing 9 to 12, we do cover all 6 commands. How far we take them just depends on the length of the program. Okay. So the only command that has to be off leash reliable is the recall. Okay. Every other command, heel, sit, stay down, place, does not have to be off leash reliable. Okay.
Right.
Recall does because she's going to be at the park, she's going to be playing, she's going to be chasing something. We need her to come back regardless. Everything else is if the owner wants. So like with Carly and Jane, she did 9, and we did the first 6, we taught all the commands and stuff, and then the latter half of the program, I was working with Jane to start building everything to a higher level of control. So if you do 9, we push for heel and recall to be off leash reliable. If you do 12, we push everything to be off-leash reliable. Sit, stay down, come, place, heel, okay? With the 6-week program, the only command we really push for is the recall. By the end of the program, don't think she'll be off-leash reliable with the recall. It's you have everything you need,
Right.
and then you practice,
Right.
right? Because if you practice once a week, we're not going to make much progress. You need time to get all that stuff done.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's very simple. It's very realistically applicable. You know, I tell my clients, once you've taught the concept, once you learn how to heel, walk your dog. Every time you walk your dog, you're practicing heel. Once you learn recall, if there's a park nearby, you walk to the park, give her the long leash, let her run around and be a dog. If she loves to chase squirrels, let her chase squirrels, practice your recall away from squirrels. Okay, so we're using our environment, we're using real life to practice, to build functional obedience, okay?
Right.
Questions so far?
When you say 9 classes or 12 classes, that's also equivalent to the number of weeks. So like every week there's a new lesson and you practice whatever you're working on in between.
Correct.
Okay.
So like if you did 9 classes, you're seeing me once a week for 9 weeks for an hour. And then we're just building on what we learn. So it's cookie cutter, but not cookie cutter. Because like let's say we did heel the first class, and then you came back class 2 and something happened. And you're like, Jesse, I really need to correct this. Can we take a tangent? And I go, sure. As long as we've covered class 1, I can go in any direction.
Okay.
Okay? But typically it would be 2 classes on heel, 2 classes on recall. So if you come in and you're like, hey Jesse, I'm doing 9 classes. I know the structure is we're going to teach everything, and in the last few classes, we're going to start advancing everything. If you do 6 classes, I go, okay, I have 6 classes. So I'm going to teach the heel, I'm going to teach the recall, which leaves us 5 and 6 as a variable, and I see what I can teach in that time frame. Because maybe you want to use a class to review something because you're struggling with it, well, that takes up a class, okay?
Right.
So when people come for a 6-week program, I think heel and recall, those are the 2 most important things. Anything else we cover is just a variable. When I see 9 or 12, I'm thinking, okay, we have plenty of time to teach everything, and then we're just going to use the end of the program to advance those things.
Yeah, I'd be looking more for 9 or 12. Do you have to, like, I say, okay, let's do 9 classes, and then I feel like, you know, I want to continue kind of pushing her in this direction. Then can we extend it, or do I have to, like, commit to the 12?
Okay, so you can add classes.
Okay.
But what would happen is, let's say you do 9, and off the top of my head, I'm just going to say 1,500. Okay, that's not the price. I'm going to say 1,500.
Right.
You do 9 classes, 1,500. Let's say 12 classes is 1,800. Okay, and then you do the 9, and you decide, hey Jesse, I'm going to do 3 more. Right? Is you would pay the cost of 3 classes. So if 3 classes cost $500, you'd pay $500.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't pay $300.
Gotcha. Okay.
The reason why is more so to push people to just commit, because it's cheaper per class.
Yeah.
But also, my calendar right now is crazy busy. I have people that I saw in January that are just starting the program. Is that when you pick your time, let's say you do 9, for 9 weeks plus 1, let's say Saturday at 4 o'clock works for you. Every Saturday at 4 o'clock for 10 weeks, that is your time. No one can take it from you. So we give that extra class in case you get sick, something happens, you have to reschedule, you have an extra week, right? But let's say you go out of town, you're gone for a couple weeks, whatever. So by the time we hit class, or week 10, you've used a priority, but you might have 3 classes left over, okay? But then we have someone who needs to book that same time. So to keep my calendar rolling, Maria will tell you, like, hey, you know, Jesse's time is booked already, you've already used a priority, but you have 3 classes left over. Here's a spot, here's another spot that's available, right? And then you say yes or no.
Okay.
You don't lose the classes, you just may lose that time spot.
Gotcha.
Because we used to hold it before, and I would get super backed up. So if you commit to 12,
Yeah, no, I get that.
if you commit to 12, we know right off the bat, you're like, I'm serious, I want to do it. I go, okay, cool, you get a cheaper per class rate, but then you also get 12 to 13 weeks of priority, so that you know you have your time and you're not having to worry about someone taking it. When it comes to what you like with a dog like this, you're perfectly fine with 9 or 12. Okay, with the 12-week really the only thing we're doing is pushing more of the commands to be off-leash reliable. For the average person, 6 and 9 is super common. 12-week are those people that are like, they go hiking, they go to the dog beach, they're gonna go there, they have a cabin at a lake, like a lake or whatever, you know, deer, squirrels, raccoons, lots of stuff going on. For the average family pet, 6 to 9 classes is typically perfectly fine. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think then for us, well, I'm trying to think because my schedule is so, like, I prefer when things are like the same time every week because my schedule is, I'm an attorney, and so like during the day it's always like what emergency is happening.
Sure.
I think that I would probably just do the 12.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I look at this as an investment and I'd rather like bill consistently than for there to like be breaks in between. And especially because then that will keep me to, you know, mentally consistent with like what we're working on. Versus
Sure.
like if there's a break, then I have to like kind of rejog my memory to get back into that headspace.
Sure. Another thing that I do, you know, because we do the priority thing, and people will have preferences. It sounds like you're very much like a consistent, right?
Yes.
Just so you wear as an option, you can do 12 straight through, you're good to go, right? But towards the end, and I think, I'm pretty sure I did this with Carly, is once you start to hit towards the end of your program, you might find like, oh, I didn't get to go to the park and practice this week, or I only went once this week, right?
Right.
Is in order to build off this reliability, you have to practice outside, right? Is towards the end, usually it's around class 9-ish, is I'll tell the client like, hey, at this point, if you like, you can space out your classes so that you have time to practice, and it's not like, oh, I didn't get to practice because it rained all week, you know, because like, so when Carly was training, we had that big snowstorm and stuff, you know, so there was times where she was like, oh, I didn't really get to practice much. So in the beginning, it's not a factor because we're just teaching things.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it's a factor because it's now you're practicing, and now you're, you need her to make mistakes so you can correct them, and you're making mistakes and you're correcting them, right? So you're more than welcome to commit to those 12 and go week by week. But towards the end, I would most likely talk to you and say like, hey, this is class 9. Now it's just practice. Now it's making mistakes. And then you come back 2 weeks later, a month later, class 10, hey, Jesse, this is where I'm at. But that's all personal preference.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so just so you're aware of that.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have no problem. I just say this is an option for you because I've come to learn throughout the years that towards the end, people struggle practicing just because the elements, you know, time, life happens.
Sure.
You know, emergencies happen, and they couldn't practice. So that's just an option. Other questions?
No, other than like, I'm super interested in the psychology of it. I was a psych major, and so like all the like cognitive stuff that you were explaining is super interesting to me. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so pressure is all over the place. You drive? Have you been on the expressway?
Yes.
Have you ever had someone drive really close to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so when they do that, they're doing that to pressure you.
Right.
To speed up, change lanes, or for you, you might not do anything, or you might brake check out, right? So there's more than one option, but they're doing that to motivate you to do something.
Right.
Growing up, we had peer pressure, right? Kids making us uncomfortable, trying to get us to do things that we shouldn't, right?
Right.
We have spatial pressure. If someone is right here in your face, we feel uncomfortable because it's confrontational, unless it happens to be someone like a loved one, our partner or family member or whatever. But if it's someone we don't know, we find it to be very threatening. But if that same person were to come here, you wouldn't feel the same threat, right? That's spatial pressure. So for dogs, all that stuff applies. So earlier when you saw me pushing down on her butt, I was using physical pressure. E-collar, it's just remote pressure. We have leash pressure, right? So it's a level of discomfort to motivate a change in behavior or a performance of a behavior, okay? And we use that to shape things. And in my opinion, negatives are like the best motivators. You ever touch a hot stove?
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
No.
There you go.
Right.
Right, that was a negative.
Right.
Growing up, if I didn't do my homework, I got spanked. If I talked back to my mom, which only happened once, I got spanked, right? All these things are motivators. Oh, I don't want to get spanked, I'm gonna get good grades. I'm gonna do my chores. I'm not gonna talk back to my mom, right? Those are all negatives. Positives are great for things you want to see again, right? So if you tell her to sit and she sits, good girl, you feed her, right? Or you praise her. But then if she gets up, what's the consequence?
Right, right.
You don't get this.
Totally.
But to her, that's not a consequence. She goes, all right, I don't get the treat, that's fine, I don't care.
Right.
She doesn't think that way.
Right.
Now for a person, you can tell them, like a kid, if you're like, hey, like, because that's the whole viral thing's been going around now, is don't eat this. I'm gonna be gone for a minute, and when I come back, then you can eat it, right? And that kid can sit there and contemplate, do I wanna try to eat it, or do I wanna wait and get to actually eat it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Dogs don't do that. Dogs are all within the now, okay? So it's not that we can't use positives, I just don't rely on positives to make reliable obedience. Because if she's off leash and I go, hey, Penny, come over here, and I wave the chicken, and she's like, no, I'm playing with my friends, this is more fun, I have no consequence now.
Right.
And then she's
Right.
like, I can get away with not responding to you.
Right.
Okay? So that's where reversives come into play. So when it comes to the training, towards the later half is when I usually have people start to incorporate food or something to help balance out the training, because we are pushing the dog to a higher level. So if I were to tell an employee to do more work, sure they would expect more pay, right?
Right.
We're not going to work for free. So here, using food towards the end, once you're already familiar with the methods, once you're familiar with how things work,
Right.
now it's not difficult to add in an extra thing.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you try to come in, trying to learn the remote, you're learning the leash, you're learning your dog, you're learning the food, timing, it's too much stuff.
Yeah.
So we shape everything first, and then towards the end we start to layer in positives to help balance it out. Okay?
Okay.
Questions so far about that stuff?
No.
So one of the most common questions I get is, when does the e-collar go away? In my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Okay? So what that means is, if she's going to be out walking around or off leash, you can have her collar on. If she's inside, if she's a great dog, there's no collar.
Right.
If someone's going to come over and she's like super excited and you want to control her, you have to collar on.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, if she's great when people come over, you don't need it. Okay?
Right.
So the reason why this is opportunistic behavior. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
So what is opportunistic behavior?
Well, when an opportunity presents itself where you have to make a decision about something,
Uh-huh. And then, so like,
which you otherwise wouldn't engage in, but for that opportunity coming to fruition.
yeah. So like the most common one is driving. So most people on the expressway do not go the speed limit, right? But then you see a squad car, what happens?
You slow down.
Slow down, right? So when there's no cop, I can get away with speeding. When I see a cop, I slow down, I pass the cop, you speed again.
Right.
Right? Opportunistic behavior. In the animal world, if there's a pond of water, there's an alligator in the water, animals are aware of it, or if the animals are aware of that alligator, they don't drink water. Alligator gets out, animals come in, drink water, alligator comes back, animals leave. Okay?
Yeah.
Opportunistic behavior.
Right.
Okay? So it's the same thing for dogs. Think of the collars that cop on a collar. Okay, when she's got it on, she's going to behave herself, she's going to be much more obedient,
Right.
okay, much more well behaved, because she knows the threat of consequences there. Collar off, she's going to press things, okay? It all comes down to the dog's personality type. Some dogs, the owner's real standard, the owner just needs it outside, and when they're inside, they take the collar off the dog, super chill. The client I just came from right now, she takes the collar off the dog, and it goes crazy, because the dog's like, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So we have to correct that behavior
Right.
without the collar. So the dog
Right.
goes, okay, collar, no collar, I have to behave. Now for dogs, a dog's correctional tool is built in. It's their mouth and their teeth. So if another dog nips or bites her to correct her, as long as that dog has mouth and teeth, she's gonna go, okay, well, I'm not gonna press your boundaries because you can stop me. For us, our means of correction is external. It's the remote, okay? So that's why when we remove it, she goes, oh, I'm free, right? And the remote is off. Same thing for like, for me growing up, if my mom was like, hey, you can't watch TV. And then something came up and she's like, oh, can you watch, because I'm the oldest. She's like, oh, will you watch the kids? I'm gonna run to the grocery store real quick, but don't watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then she'd leave and car's gone, TV is on,
Oh, yeah.
and just make sure to put it back on the same channel when she came back, right?
Right.
Opportunistic behavior.
Right.
So if we can get away with it, we'll try it if we're motivated to. So it has nothing to do with the training or my methods, it's just simply just how it is.
Oh, yeah, totally. I understand that.
Yeah, because a lot of people will ask me, like, Jesse, if the dog is so well trained, why don't they just be a good dog? And I go, because dogs aren't proactive animals like humans are. Like, you were proactive, right? You got this dog and you decided, you talked to Carly, and you're like, I want to find a trainer. You went out and you started doing things, right? Dogs don't do that. She doesn't think that one day, like, you know what, I put on a few extra pounds, I'm gonna eat less kibble today. You know?
Yeah.
So she's reactive. She's
Right.
like, oh, I feel hungry, I'm gonna hunt for something, right?
Right.
Oh, I see a cat, I'm gonna chase it.
Right.
She's not sitting there plotting or dreaming at night going, tomorrow I'm gonna chase that cat.
Right.
Okay? Questions?
I'm sure that more will come up, but right now I'm just kind of processing everything. That
Okay.
you're telling me right now.
How much does she weigh?
She is 32 pounds.
32 pounds. Okay. I would probably put her on the same collar as Carly. Not Carly. as
As Jane.
Don't tell Carly I put a collar on her. As Jane. Just because she's got a bit of a denser coat, is having more output. Just you don't have to worry about whether or not you can get through to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I always want to think in case of an emergency. Okay, so there's a collar meant for 35 pounds and under. It's a small collar, but I look at her and I'm like, well, she's 32 pounds and she's got that dense coat, right? It's let's say you're at the park, she's off leash, and someone fires a firework off, and let's say it spooks her. Is in that moment you have to override her fear of the firework, and the 35 pound and under collar is low output, so you may not have the power to override that situation.
Right.
The bigger collar has more output, which means you just have a lower number. Okay, so on the lower collar you might have a number of 40, and on the bigger collar you'll have a number of like 20. Okay, so it gives you more, of a window to be able to override her fear of the firework and get her to return. Okay, because you have to factor in the size of the dog, the fact that she's moving, and the collar is shuffling, she's scared of the firework, the density of her coat, the physical toughness of the dog. You know, every dog is different. I had a client just now, it's a golden retriever puppy, 6 months old. Out of 127, his number was 85. Okay, and he doesn't yip, he doesn't yelp. It's just 85. Okay, and he does perfectly on it. So breed, size of dog has no factor on their receptiveness to the collar. Every dog is different, and that's something that I help you, of course, figure out.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Question.
I guess like, I guess logistically, okay, we decide to work together. What is the next step?
Oh, for like booking and everything?
Yeah.
So what happened is I turn around and I would email Maria, and I'll say, send the pricing for 9 to 12 week programs, and then the collar that we suggest.
Okay.
And then once your form is, your training form is submitted, she knows you're serious. And then she'll go, okay, send me your schedule, and you give her your openings. And then she'll look at your calendar, my calendar, and she'll see where do we line up. And she'll give you options if there are options, or it might just be a single option, okay?
Right.
The start date can be, depending on your availability, it can be a month from now, it can be a week from now. That I don't know. That's all contingent on your availability versus mine. My schedule is kind of backwards because most people work 9 to 5. So I'm usually evenings and weekends.
Right.
So if you had like daytime availability, that'd be easier to get you in because most people work 9 to 5.
Right.
Okay. If you want to work with me, there may be a bit of a wait. If you would just like to get started sooner rather than later, you can also work with Enrique, who's my trainer. He's taking on his own cases now, and a case like this is super simple. He's more than capable of handling it. That just comes down to your preference, So I opened up his schedule because I was getting so backed up with clients.
Oh, I bet.
And people were complaining, and I was like, okay, well, we can do this too to take off some work
You're
for me.
only one person.
Exactly. There's only so many hours in a day, and we all have the same number of hours in a day. But I'll have as many as 8 to 9 clients in a day, back to back, and that doesn't include because I pick up dogs for daycare. I do all the business stuff that just goes with running a business. All the video editing, I do that too to help out my media editor because it's like we do at least 40 to 60 hours of footage a week.
Oh my God.
Plus I do my training and plus all the other stuff.
Do you sleep?
Sometimes. But yeah, it's just part of the process. But it just comes down to your personal preference. If you want to work with me, Maria will help you figure that out.
Okay.
If you rather start sooner rather than later, there is Enrique. And what would happen is, if you said, Maria, I'd like to work with Enrique, she would, once you submit your forms and you've paid, she would send you over to him. and he would coordinate with you to get you started on his calendar. We don't do anything with his calendar. He's in charge of his own. Maria solely handles mine. Okay, and that's a full-time job alone for her.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, other questions?
No, I mean, well, one question I do have is on the website, there's a indicator for like different classes or something where it says like verbal instruction only.
Oh, yeah, so we've changed things now. So everything we do is verbal instruction.
Right, I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so to be more specific, pre-COVID, I would work with the dog in front of you to show you. I would then hand you your dog, talk over it with you, then coach you through it. Now I don't even touch the dog, okay? It's all you. So I'm present with you, I'm coaching you through it, so you're learning everything from ground zero.
Right.
Okay? And people have loved it. Because one of the, a very common complaint is, oh, Jesse, my dog behaves well when the trainer is over, but then when the trainer is gone, the dog doesn't behave. Because as a trainer, we know how to handle dogs.
Right.
So then the dog goes, well, you know how to work with me, but this person doesn't. So that creates a rift. Okay? So now, with me being out the picture, she doesn't know who has the remote and stuff, or who that I'm talking and telling you what to do.
Yeah.
So she just thinks it's all tied to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so it makes it that much more effective because I'm completely out the picture.
Yeah. And I will remember better if I'm the one actually doing
Yeah, it's all hands on it.
Yeah.
So we started that as part of COVID because one, people were like, oh, don't come to my house. Because I used to do home to home. I used to travel to everybody. But then when COVID happened, nobody wanted anybody coming over.
Right.
So then I had to devise a way to be able to train dogs. And I was like, I knew I could do it using e-collar, which is verbal instruction, but a lot of people didn't believe it could be done. And then we got our first client, and then she did a testimonial for us, and then after she did the testimonial, all of a sudden, all these people started signing up, and now everybody's like, oh wow, it's crazy, like, you know, you don't even test the dog anymore. I'm like, no, I don't need to. So everything's tied to you. If you forget anything, you know, we have everything recorded and stuff, so people just go back and refer to the videos.
Yeah.
It's a ton of information.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much information there is within the video. It's a lot to retain. So that's also there as a resource for you.
Yeah.
If you struggle with anything, I can also send you, like if I have another client with the same problem, a video to reference and say like, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. So you go, oh, okay, like that's what we're trying to do. Other questions?
No, I mean, I guess at the end of each training session, then you give me like homework to do.
Correct.
Like, okay.
Yeah, so you have your homework. I call myself like the lazy man's dog trainer because you just train to go by your life. Every time you walk her, you're doing your training.
Right.
You know, the only thing for you, you know, if you're doing, you know, a longer full control type of program, towards the end is where you really have to make investment in time to go places. Because in order to make your obedience off-leash reliable, you have to go to the park and practice where there's going to be things. Otherwise, you don't know what needs work. Okay?
Right.
So if you always practice like in a tennis court, she's going to be great at the tennis court. But then one day we try to take her to like a forest preserve, and there's deer and squirrels and rabbits and stuff. Now it's going to be completely different.
Yeah, she needs that exposure.
Yeah. So the beginning part is pretty simple. You just practice as you go about your day. You can practice while you're working from home. A lot of stuff is easy to do. It's really just common sense and logic based.
Yeah.
Once you get it, it's really just like, okay, like how do I use this tool to communicate what I need the dog to do? And then towards the end, it's just taking the time to go places and practice and all that stuff.
Okay.
Other questions?
I think that's all for right now. I mean, I'm, as you can probably tell, like a very pragmatic person. Like I wouldn't take a class and then be like, oh, I'm gonna take a break and then do 3 classes later. Like I'm gonna do the whole thing.
Sure.
And then, like take what I have and apply it.
Sure.
So that's why I want to do 12. And the weather's nice too, so I want to take advantage of that. Obviously, it being summer.
Yep.
And with her, you know, who knows what could come up or you know what things that maybe in the future I may want to do with her that maybe I don't think of right now. So I probably just want to do the 12. I am in California for 8 days in the middle of May.
Okay.
So I would want to start after I get back so that there's no disconnect.
Oh, sure. That's perfectly fine. So then what you would do is you just let Maria know if you're booking with me. And actually that makes things easier for you because you're booking in the future.
Right.
The other thing would be, I just thought of it when you were talking right now and I forgot. If I remember, I'll bring it up. Anything else?
I can think of at the moment.
The only thing I can think of is in the beginning, it's not uncommon to see what people call depression or mopiness because of all the discipline. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Because in the beginning, you're going to be doing a lot of remoting because you're teaching things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then typically by class 3, you start to balance things out because you're going to be taking her out to practice recall, which means she's going to be running around.
Yeah.
So then the freedom starts to balance out the training. So in the beginning, because you're doing a lot of corrections, you see the dog being more cautious, okay? But exposure and working them through that, it goes away. When people, so our instinct is typically, oh, my dog is stressed, I'm gonna lay off the collar. The dog doesn't know how to get over it. Have you ever been skydiving?
No.
Okay. Would you agree that's probably gonna be stressful if you ever did?
Yeah.
Yep. So imagine if you go skydiving once a month, you would get used to it, but it would take a bit. But
Yeah.
if you go skydiving every day, you're gonna get over that stress really fast,
Totally.
right? Because you expose yourself to it every day.
Totally.
So same thing with the e-collar. Our instinct is typically, oh, the dog, is stressed or whatever, and people lay off, and then the dog doesn't learn how to kind of get over that. So it's continuous exposure
Right.
until eventually she goes, okay, this is another thing in life. But also she learns how it turns on and turns off. So eventually she learns she can avoid the remote. She just has to perform the task.
Right.
And then over the course of time, it just is more so just there in case she makes a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
in case something happens in life that we didn't account for, like a car backfires and she gets spooked, or maybe someone blows up a firework, a squirrel runs right in front of her, things like that. Is that even in those kind of random environments, you still have the ability to regain control. Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's everything. Like all the stuff that people typically want to ask. Pretty straightforward case. Just
Yeah.
and stuff.
She's a great dog. She's super sweet. She just needs to learn, discipline.
Yeah.
And to, for us to learn how to communicate with each other and, work on her behaviors, like you said.
Gotcha.
So I haven't seen her like aggressive towards any dogs or anyone. She just has like a lot of energy. She's
She seems super sweet and she's cute. What kind of mix is she?
We don't know. So she was a stray in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And heartworm is super common in all our mosquitoes down there.
Mm-hmm.
So my vet was like, we definitely have to test her right away.
Mm-hmm.
And her paperwork from Arkansas says shepherd mix, but one tail at a time, who I fostered with, stated that she was the beagle mix. So I don't really know.
I feel like I see border collie and Australian cattle dog because of the spotting and just the mask and her colors. I know those, was it the embark test?
Yes, no, I want to do one of those.
I've had some clients do that, and it seems fairly accurate, because I had someone because they had a full-blown pit or something, so they're like, I'm going to see if it's real, and it came back, 100% APPBT, so I think it's pretty accurate. And the funny thing is, let's say you do the test, and one of her litter mates, their owners did the test, you get a notification of hey, they're 60% compatible, which usually means litter mates and or mother daughter type of thing. So it gets really interesting because you can even message people hey, your dog is my dog's brother or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So.
But I don't really know. She definitely she loves sniffing a lot. And, I let her do that because I know that it's good for their stimulation. And she definitely likes to keep busy. So I try to give her a lot of games and put boxes together and then put a bunch of paper towels in there and have her sniff for food.
Mm-hmm.
She's really great in her crate. She will calm down. She'll start whining at if she sees me and she wants to play. She sees my cat, she wants to play. But otherwise, she just kind of sleeps and chews on her toys and So she's my friend who has an Australian cattle dog. It seems like she has to get out and run. I don't feel as much. I don't think she needs that as much. I think it's more about her mental stimulation, and she likes being outside, but she doesn't run full blown. She's been in backyards and stuff like that, and she'll play with other dogs and kind of run around. But she's not like racing back and forth by any means.
Gotcha. I had another question there. I've been training all day. My
Oh my gosh, I completely, that's a lot, 8 clients in one day. There's a lot of attention required. But yeah, she's a good dog.
Yeah, he's cute.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not at the moment. You've given me a lot to, process
Sure.
and look into. I'm sure I'll probably like do more research into the psychology of it, just so I understand it better.
No, for sure. I tell everybody, do your research the tool. The brand that I use is Dogtra, just so you're aware. In my book, it's the best brand there is.
Yeah, that's what Charlie told me.
You'll see there's cheaper models out there. If they're $30, $40, they're like really cheap. You don't want those. There's another brand called E-Collar Technologies, which is a good brand. However, the stimulation, the sensation of the stim comes across differently. I find it's more sharp, whereas the Dogtra is more dull. So dogs tend to take to Dogtra much better from experience. And I've been using them for 10 years. I've used E-Collar Technologies, and it's a good tool, but it's not the same as the Dogtra. They last a very long time. I've had mine for 8 years. The most common issue is it's a rechargeable lithium battery, so the battery does die after so many charges, but it's a few years. So like 3 years in, you might find that it doesn't hold a charge anymore.
Right.
You could call Dogtra and say, hey, I had this collar, it's not charging anymore. Don't do that. No. It's not charging anymore. They can either replace it for you by, you can purchase a battery, or you can send it in and they'll fix it for you for like a small fee. And then they'll send it back and then it's good to go again. Okay. But yeah, they last a really long time. Had mine for 8 years, with the only issue being the battery.
Okay.
Other than that, it's a very reliable tool. And if you have any questions that you may have forgotten to ask, feel free to let Maria know, and she tells me, and then I get back to her.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she'll get in contact with you, and then once you've molded over, you can get back to her. If you know like you're sold or whatever, you can just email her right away and tell her like, hey, 12-week, send me the information, and she'll start that process going. As a heads up to you, Maria goes by training forms. So if you submit your training form right away, like she knows, okay, you're ready to go. Because a lot of times people will like kind of just go back and forth with her, asking a lot of questions, and then they don't sign up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she doesn't really take it seriously until she goes, okay, like you've submitted your form, you're ready to go.
Oh yeah, totally. That's why I was like, I can't imagine someone like you would be able to do like free consult, because so many people just want information.
I used to do free consults before, or really early on, because I was building my name. But I remember I had 1 week where I had 10 consults and only one person signed up. And I had a really good like 70 to 80% like sign on rate. And one week I had like 10 consults and I was all over the place, and only one person signed up. And I was like, you know what? This is starting to be a bit much. And then I started charging a small fee. And then throughout the years, to filter out people, we've raised the fee. We've even changed it now, where now they have to pay up front and then we book them.
Right.
Because then people would go back and forth with Maria. They would pick a time with her, she would invoice them, and then they would change their mind last minute.
Oh my God, yeah.
So now we do payment up front and then we book you.
Yeah.
To again filter people, you know?
No, I understand. As an attorney in private practice, I totally get it. I'm like, okay, if you want me to continue giving me advice, then you have to retain our office.
Yeah. So.
Because people just push the limit so much.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But it's, we're so busy, it's not really even impacting us. So.
Right.
So if you have any other questions, you let us know. Otherwise, it's a pleasure meeting you.
You too. Thank you so much.
If you see Carly and Jane, tell her I said hi.
I will. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
There you go.
All right, Patty. Go home.
So you said you do a training for chiropractors, or?
No, I'm in private